this is Tej Prakash and welcome back to our channel. So in today's class, I'm going to explain you much interesting topic, that is vectors. So what is meant by vectors? So before knowing about vectors, first let us know about physical quantities. Let us know about physical quantities. So what is meant by physical quantity? Any quantity which can be measured is called a physical quantity. And these physical quantities are of two types. One is scalar quantity and other one is vector quantity. One is scalar quantity and other one is vector quantity. So what is meant by scalar quantity? I guess everyone know about scalar quantity. So what is meant by scalar quantity? Any quantity which is having a magnitude is called a scalar quantity. Which is having only magnitude is called scalar quantity. What is vector quantity? Any quantity which is having both magnitude and direction is called vector quantity. An example for scalar quantity is distance. Example for scalar quantity is distance. So if you observe here, distance does not have any direction. It has just magnitude. So anyone say that a body traveled 10 kilometers, but we did not mention the direction. And coming to vector quantity, the example for vector quantity is displacement. What is meant by displacement? The body which have both magnitude and direction. The displacement has both magnitude and direction. So we say that a body traveled 10 kilometers towards east. Here we are mentioning the direction. So that we say it as vector quantity. So this vector quantity is denoted as, for example, let us take a vector A. So we write it as A bar, or we write it like this. Okay? And now let us know about vectors. Okay? Just now I have told you about vectors. And these vectors are of many types. Vectors are of many types. So let us learn some of them. So first one is equal vector. Equal vectors. What is meant by equal vectors? What is meant by equal vectors? The vectors which are having same magnitude and direction are called equal vectors. In the word equal, you can understand that equal vectors. That means two vectors which are equal. That means they are having both equal like magnitude and direction. The vectors whose magnitude and direction are equal, they are said to be equal vectors. So let us take an example. This is an vector A bar and this is another vector B bar. If you observe here, these two vectors are in each direction. That means they are having same direction and magnitude. If you see here, the magnitude is also equal. That means in vectors, magnitude in the sense displacement. Okay? And that is about equal vectors. So I think you got in clarity about equal vectors which are having equal, that means same magnitude and direction are said to be equal vectors. And next one is parallel vectors. What is meant by parallel vectors? The vectors which are having same direction are called parallel vectors. The vectors which are having same direction, okay, they are called parallel vectors. The vectors which are having same direction are called parallel vectors. So for example, these are two vectors. Let us assume it as A bar and B. So they both are in each direction. Direction is same. Whereas coming to the magnitude is different. If you observe it, that is not equal. Whereas in equal vectors, it is equal. Right? By seeing this both equal vectors and parallel vectors, you need to get one point. That is, all equal vectors are parallel vectors. Because in equal vectors, they are having same magnitude and direction. In parallel vectors, only same direction. So these are parallel and even these are parallel. So all equal vectors are parallel vectors. Note, all equal vectors are parallel vectors. And in parallel vectors, the magnitude will be different. Only the direction will be same. And next one is anti-parallel vectors. And the third one is anti-parallel vectors. Anti-parallel vectors. In the word anti-parallel, you can understand that they are anti-parallel. That means opposite to parallel. Here in parallel, they are having same directions and different magnitude. Whereas in anti-parallel, they are having different magnitude and direction. So let us see. The vectors which are having different magnitude and direction are called anti-parallel vectors. So let us draw in two vectors. This is A bar. This is B bar. So if you see here, they are anti-parallel. That means this is in east direction, this is in west direction, right? So that they are having different, that means opposite directions. So having opposite directions are said to be anti-parallel vectors. And next one is null vectors. Null vectors. What is meant by null vectors? These null vectors can also be called as zero vectors. That means the word 0 you can understand that the vectors which are having magnitude 0 are called null vectors. So you can get it out. So vector in the sense which are having same magnitude and direction, but not same magnitude, which are having magnitude and direction are called vector. But in null vector, I am saying that which are having only magnitude 0. Its direction is indeterminate. Its direction cannot be determined. Okay? And that is null vector. The vector whose magnitude is 0 are said to be null vectors or 0 vectors, which are having magnitude 0 are said to be null vectors. Their direction is indeterminate. The direction is indeterminate, so that we can't determine the direction. So, mod of a bar, modulus of a bar in the sense its magnitude. The magnitude is 0, then we can call it as null vector. Okay? And next is unit vector. Next one is unit vector. What is meant by an unit? Unit in the sense 1. So unit vector in the sense which are having magnitude 1 are called unit vectors. The vectors whose magnitude is 1 are called unit vectors. They are having only magnitude is equals to 1. Those type of vectors are called unit vectors. Equals to 1. It can be 1 kilometer, 1 meter, 1 centimeter, or any units. Okay? And that is about unit vector. And next one is coplanar vectors. What is meant by coplanar vectors? The vectors which lie in the same plane are called coplanar vectors. For example, this is a vector A bar and this is a vector B bar. So this board is on plane. So on this board, these two vectors are there. So these two vectors are on the same plane. So that we can say that they are coplanar vectors. The vectors which are in the same plane are called coplanar vectors. This type of vectors are called coplanar vectors. That means they lie on the same plane. For example, let us assume this is a plane. And this is a vector A bar and this is vector b bar, this is vector c bar, and this is vector d bar. So here, what are the coplanar vectors here? The coplanar vectors are a bar, b bar, c bar, and d. These four are the coplanar vectors because they lie on the same plane. Okay, the vectors which lie in the same plane are called coplanar vectors. The vectors which lie in the same plane are called coplanar vectors. And next, let us learn about negative vectors. What are negative vectors? What are negative vectors? The vectors which are having same magnitude but with opposite direction are called negative vectors. The vectors which are having same magnitude but are in opposite direction are called negative vectors. The vectors which are having same magnitude and are in opposite direction are called negative vectors. For example, this is a vector, this is another vector. So here these are having same magnitude but having different direction. That means we can write it as a bar is equals to minus b bar. Can we write it? Yeah, because they are having same magnitude and are in opposite direction. So we can also write it as b bar is equals to minus a bar. Okay, and this is about negative vectors. And next one is orthogonal vectors. Orthogonal vectors. What is meant by orthogonal vectors? The vectors which are having an angle of 90 degrees is called orthogonal vectors. So before learning about orthogonal vectors, first we need to learn how to find the angle between two vectors. If it is a vector a bar and this is another vector b bar, so what is the angle between these two vectors? So we are having a certain difference here. They are not attached, but in vectors we can attach them, but in same direction. That means this is a bar, we can bring this b bar to here. And this is 90 degrees. The angle between these two vectors is 90 degrees. These two tails are attached. When these two tails are attached, we can easily find the angle between them. And that is about how to find the angle between two vectors. Orthogonal vectors. Just now I have set you an example, right? That is same as orthogonal vectors. The vectors which are having an angle of 90 degrees are called orthogonal vectors. So, 1 minute. This is an vector A bar. This is an another vector B bar. Now, if you observe here, their angle is 90 degrees. That means they are perpendicular to each other. So that we can say that they are orthogonal vectors. And the next one is proper vectors. Proper vectors. What is meant by proper vector? The vectors which are having magnitude non-zero, they are called proper vectors. That means their magnitude should not be zero. It should be more than zero, right? So that this type of vectors are called proper vectors. The vectors whose magnitude is non-zero are called proper vectors. That means their magnitude should be non-zero. It should not be zero. It should be more than zero. Those type of vectors are called proper vectors. That means if its magnitude is 1 meter, it's a proper vector. Or 2 meters, it's a proper vector. More than 0. The unit can be anything. It can be centimeter, millimeter, kilometer or anything. And that is about vectors. I hope you